if I'm asked to describe what I think has happened to a child whose body has been maimed by a priest and whose psyche has been, and sexuality has been destroyed at the age of 5, as, say, the recent Belgian bishop's nephew had to undergo, the Pope only protesting when the police took an interest in the matter. It doesn't make it, by the way, an exception, it makes it the rule. But I could have picked another example. I say, if I was asked what's happened to this kid, I'd say his soul has been destroyed. I wouldn't say that with any embarrassment at all. I would need an extra word. It would be not enough to say this kid has been abused. Right? This is pathetic. Our language, our secular language, our journalistic language is in grave danger, I think, of becoming morally emaciated. Abuse for rape and torture and the prolonged destruction of the possibility of a full personality. No, you need more than that. The Germans have a word for it. Soul murder. It's a good expression. You wouldn't want to be without it. And I would affirm that genuinely. Just as I find that the word evil is absolutely necessary. You mentioned my work, thank you, on Saddam Hussein and others. I feel I've even smelled it. The sense of evil that you get with racism and genocide and sadism, what I've described in my materialist note as the surplus value of dictatorship, an evil and cruel dictatorship that wants evil and cruelty not for its own interest or because it would serve its turn or kill its enemies. That's too easy to explain. No, likes these things for their own sake. Will do them even if it risks the stability and reputation and profitability of the regime. Needs it. Needs cruelty. Needs murder. Needs the real, authentic stench of evil that I claim to have felt in my own nostrils. I think any account of fascism that lacks that is, again, morally thin and historically emaciated too. By the way, if you ever want a liberal who doubts this, get him to say the word evil. Do you know how to do it? You can. Just put the word lesser in front of it and they'll vote for it. They know, it's just they don't like to admit it. So, materialism needn't be reductionism. But we mustn't inflate the religious claim either. Let's take 3. I'll just take 3, and then I think we ought to turn it over, of Shmuley's critiques. I'll start with Dr. King. Actually, he had a better title in front of his name than Reverend, which was Doctor, but never mind, that's a quibble. When he cited the Hebrew prophets, which he did all the time, because there was really only one way of getting an audience in the South without being immediately killed, and that was to claim that you were speaking in the name of the Christian God of the slavers, who'd invented the problem in the first place, so you better know your testament, boy. That's the only licensed form of criticism there was in the epoch of racist dictatorship. And he knew the books, sure he knew the books, and my friend Taylor Branch, in his wonderful biography of him, gives the books their, if you like, the volumes their right names, The Pillar of Fire, The Parting of the Waters. Yes, he knew the Exodus story. Aren't we glad he didn't mean it? He would have been saying his tribe was entitled to kill anyone else who got in their way. The Amalekites, the Midianites, away with them. Kill them, kill their children, take their women, steal their land. You have God on your side and justice too. Aren't we really glad that Dr. King, who studied Hegel at university and did his real work on secular studies, aren't we glad that he knew this stuff was metaphorical at best and toxic even then? And even then he's in a joust with the people who say the slogan of the Confederacy, Deo Vindice, God is on our side. That's the first thing. The second thing is this. We lose something from our history. And I will say this on the platform, the podium of the great Abraham Lincoln. It's a good place to say it. A man who was an absolutely determined non-believer and satirist and ridiculer of religion, and the first to point out that both sides in this terrible oncoming war claimed that God favored them. Who now remembers, look what we've lost in our culture and our discussion of the struggle against racism. Who in school, I ask you who are parents, who in school is taught the name of Bayard Rustin, the great American socialist and social democrat and originator and organizer of the March on Washington? And original gay activist and persecuted and framed by the FBI for that too. Forgotten. Who knows the name of A. Philip Randolph, the great organizer of black American labor, a wonderful trade unionist and politician who organized a march on Washington for equal rights when Franklin Roosevelt was president, long before Dr. King had even been born. Obliterated from our story and our culture because don't have Reverend in front of the name. And if you want to pose as ethical, do like Sharpton does, get called the Reverend now. Then there's nothing you can't do or say. No pose you may not strike. This is not encouraging. Now, last, and I think dolorously, but inevitably, because it never doesn't come up, I'm not a member of a faction that goes out and shoots people and burns their churches and burns their books if I feel offended. I hope that's clear. If it isn't clear, I feel I'd better give you the reassurance now. You can say what you like about Marx and Darwin and Einstein and burn their books. You know, I won't care, and I won't come burn your church or your house. And I don't get appeased by the Joint Chiefs of Staff or the head of Central Intelligence or the President either, as if I might. But I don't want that kind of respect, thanks. Only the religious and the faithful seem entitled to demand that. But I do mind being insulted all the same. I have a certain residue of self-respect, which, though it won't survive me, means a little to me now. And religious people are often unaware of it. They'll say things fantastically rude on first meeting, like, oh, you don't believe in God? Where do you get your ideas of right and wrong from? What? The Pope says at the intaking of the capital city of the Albigensians, a Christian heresy, Simon de Montfort, as general, said, you want me to kill them all? How will I know who's an Albigensian? He said, kill them all. God will know his own. The Hamas people interviewed in Gaza recently by the Palestinian correspondent, very brave woman at the New York Times, said, what do you mean you're shooting people in the hospital? Says to this humanoid. Says, we're doing them a favor. If they're good Muslims, they'll already be in paradise. These people want to know how I get my ideas of morality without a belief in the totalitarian power of the supernatural. I object. I don't like being talked to in that tone of voice. And I hold it down. And then I get told that atheism is Nazism. The Pope does it today, getting off the fucking plane in Edinburgh to talk to the Queen. And Shmuley doesn't exactly not say it. Now, on this, because of the totalitarians of the 20th century, Adolf Hitler is the only one he mentioned more than twice. Because I can't do them all, though, believe me, I will if you press me. I'll just take the Führer. My former colleagues and ancestors at the New School produced a very comprehensive edition of Mein Kampf, a hard book to get. They wanted everyone to read it, and I have several copies of the edition they brought out in 1940. Just slightly too late, actually, in the hope of warning people. I think it's at the closing pages of chapter 2 that Adolf Hitler says that his work against the Jews is done on the direct instruction and inspiration of Almighty God. It's certainly a trope that's repeated throughout the book. And there was no reason for someone brought up in Catholic Austria-Bavaria not to think that. Centuries of Christian instruction in the poisonous nature of the Jewish people, the verminous character of the Jewish people. An uncontroversial remark. The Vatican at that point was willing to ban books by Evelyn Waugh and Graham Greene. Say nothing, books about evolution and the Big Bang. They were invited to ban Mein Kampf. Did they? No, they didn't. Instead, the Vatican made its first ever political treaty with the Third Reich, exchanging complete control over education on their part for complete control over the rest of the state by the Nazi Party. What did it say on the belt buckle of every single member of the Nazi army? What did it say? Gott mit uns. Do you want me to translate? It says God on our side, in German. If you took your oath to the Führer, how did it have to begin? I swear in the name of Almighty God, my undying fealty to Adolf Hitler. Shmuley, I won't take it from you. I'm sorry. I don't want to spoil a relatively friendly evening either. Don't you dare bring this up again. I can take a lot. Read any history of fascism in the 20th century and take out the word fascist from any history that's remotely objective, including much written by Christian historians, and just put in, instead of the word fascist, extreme Catholic, you don't need to change another word. To say this was secular is just getting history completely wrong. To say it's atheist is a deliberate, conscious insult, and I won't have it. So, now you know how rude I can be.
Soul death and the destruction of the soul.
The soul, yes.
And what is, for you, what is the soul?
It would be like saying, it's like reducing love to sex, if you wish. You can do it. I mean, we've all tried. Often after being, shall we say, disappointed in love, I say, why did she, if it was a she, why did she give me such, what is she up with, a rag, a bone, a hank of hair, a bunch of hormones? What the hell? What was all that about? Yeah, but you keep telling yourself, keep asking yourself, you won't come up with the answer. I'm just putting it anecdotally. If you took out the word soul, if you took out the word evil, if you took out the word spirit, Marx can't discuss religion without saying it's the spirit of a spiritless situation. If you describe an event or a city as soulless, everyone knows what you mean. It's somehow necessary. We couldn't. All I can say, that's as with the word numinous, is that it's the penumbra. It's what you can't quite see, but we can't do without it, especially sins, which I should have said earlier. I mean, the great delight of being alive now is that we do know, though we know less and less, we know less and less about more and more, at least. And we are on the verge of extraordinary discoveries, both about our own nature and interior, from the genome and other things, and about the cosmos. But we know incredibly little about galaxy formation, about how many universes there might be, about there are people like my friend and colleague in the atheist movement, Sam Harris, a great neurologist, who think the NDE, near-death experience stuff, may be all nonsense, not unlike spiritualism, but the possibility of consciousness, in some sense independent of the physical brain, is worth examining, and there's work being done in it. If he's interested in that, then so am I.
So if that were possible, then that would be something that would live on past the body.
I think there would need to be bodies still around to, so to speak, transmit it. I don't think it's not going to be in a stratosphere, or it's not the word I'm looking for. Stratosphere. It's not going to be in some astral plane that these things are resolved. One will need to have minds made of meat in order to process them, print them. There'll have to be events like this where they can be debated. But yes, there will be. We live on the verge of extraordinary discovery.
So you would.
But I don't think they will lead to a supernatural. They will not lead to our discovering a supernatural plane of which we were hitherto unaware.
But if it's not something within nature, and if it's not something material, it would, by definition, be supernatural. Maybe not religious, but it would be supernatural.
Well, the religious people have tended in the past, because look, here's the great contradiction of being religious, and Shmuley's exemplified it in a very amiable way this evening. If you are a person of faith, then that's what you are a person of. Especially in Christianity and Islam, it's the strength of your faith that is your merit. It's your willingness to believe and to risk your life for it, no matter what. Do you affirm it? Yes, I do. How does it go? They say it 5 times a day. There is no God but God, and Allah is his messenger. You notice the first 4 words are exactly right. Yeah. And Muhammad. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. The first 4 words are exactly right. There is no God. So 5 times a day, millions of people around the world unknowingly speak 4 words of complete truth. Progress of a kind. But it's the faith that is the merit. What do they want evidence for? They're never going to get any evidence for that. The merit is the faith. So as soon as they say, and by the way, it is possible to make night journeys to Jerusalem on a horse, the faith shrivels. It shrivels. And Christianity has given itself away repeatedly on this. It now says, we didn't used to think there was a Big Bang, but now